Okay, raise your hand if you know someone, a family member or a friend, who identifies themselves as either gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. Raise your hand if you... Yeah, looks like virtually everybody in the audience, and I too would be raising my hand in this case, because I also know people who identify themselves as either gay, lesbian, who are friends and family of ours. And so this really raises the question, how are we as Christians supposed to continue and maintain these relationships with these people without compromising our convictions?
Is there a rule in the Bible that says you can't be friends with gay people? If not, I don't see the point of raising this question.
Now, I hope you realize that this is going to be an uphill battle for us in order to be able to do that in the culture that we live in today. Now, when I use the word battle, I do not mean to suggest that this is a battle against homosexuals. It is not. They are not the enemy. The real enemy is the false ideas the culture has bought into about the nature of homosexuality and about what the Bible says about homosexuality. So, for example, the culture has bought into the idea that it is cool to be gay.
I don't really think our culture says it's cool to be gay, but even if it did, culture defines what is cool. Coolness is a culturally dictated concept. If our culture said that it is cool to be gay, it would be cool to be gay. I hope that someday minding your own fucking beeswax instead of sticking your nose into other people's sex lives and relationships becomes cool.
In fact, studies show that each successive generation is more likely to be accepting of homosexuality. In fact, a lot of people think, oh man, the studies show that 10% of the population is gay. And so people think, man, it's popular, so therefore we are going to think it is cool.
Being accepted is not the same thing as being popular. Being interested in math is perfectly acceptable in our culture, but it sure as fuck doesn't make you popular.
And of course, this is not surprising, given the fact that homosexuality is glorified in Hollywood. It's taught in our schools. It's protected in our laws.
Homosexuality is taught in our schools? I don't recall taking a class called How to Gay. What this guy means is that acceptance of gay folks in their relationships is taught in our schools, but he wouldn't phrase it that way because that sounds too reasonable.
And so it's no longer enough to simply tolerate it, we have to celebrate it. In fact, Julie Rogers, who worked as in the chaplain's office at Wheaton College, who said she has same-sex attractions, was brought in by that school to help the school sort of navigate the complex conversations that many students might have that are struggling with same-sex attraction. Now, she eventually came out and said, no, I'm accepting of homosexuality, and so therefore the school removed her from her position. But here's what she said about that. She said, regarding the students at the university who have same-sex attraction, she says, these students do not need to hear that there's a chance they might be tolerated. They need to be celebrated. And this is why I say it's no longer enough for us simply to tolerate homosexuality. We have to celebrate it.
No, you don't. When she said we, I don't think she intended to include you. You are under no obligation to show up at pride parades or any other LGBT-related celebrations. In fact, I doubt you'll even be invited.
The culture's also bought into the idea that homosexuality is a normal variation of sexual behavior. In other words, for two men to have sex or for two women to have sex is just as normal and as healthy as if a man and a woman were to have sex.
There's nothing inherently less healthy about gay sex. Depending on how you do it, sometimes it's even less risky than heterosexual sex because you don't have to worry about potentially dangerous complications that pregnancy sometimes causes.
The culture's also bought into the idea that homosexuals are born that way, that there is some genetic or biological component that causes them to develop same-sex attraction. And of course, if you're born that way and it's genetic, then of course you can't change the way you are. That's an unchangeable characteristic. Just like our eye color is determined by our genes, it's something that we are sort of born with, and you can't change your eye color. Indeed, it would probably be harmful or dangerous to try to change your eye color. So they say it would be also dangerous or harmful to try to attempt to change your sexual orientation for the same reason.
And your argument against this is what?
Culture has also bought into the idea that Christians hate homosexuals. And although I would say that they're largely mistaken about this, there's a lot of things that we have done as a church that has contributed to that impression.
I'll fucking say, even if it's the case that Christians don't hate gay people, there is no shortage of Christians that say that the God they worship hates gay people. Leviticus says that gay sex should be punished with death. How do you expect gay folks to react to something like that? Why would they not infer that your religion hates them?
And so today we'll talk about what some of those things are, and I'm going to offer some principles that can help us to correct course and maybe make a difference and move in a more positive way. The culture also believes that the Bible has been mistranslated and is being used to wrongly condemn homosexuals.
I've never heard anyone argue that the passages condemning homosexuality have been mistranslated. I've heard people argue that they've been misinterpreted, but not mistranslated.
And furthermore, the culture's bought into the idea that the Bible is an outmoded, ancient piece of literature, really a relic, that has no business informing our modern culture about morality, let alone about sexual morality.
Yep, I'm pretty reluctant to take lessons in sexual morality from a book that prescribes taking Midianite women as sex slaves. Thanks again for helping me out on Patreon.